some of these rumors that are out here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money she had. She didn't deserve to die. It doesn't matter what she paid for. She didn't deserve to die. It was a senseless death at the hands of savages. It's reciprocity. We reciprocate. If I'm doing for you, and if I'm caring for you, and if I'm loving on you, and if I'm supporting you, and I'm encouraging you, then I would expect that you would do that in return. And the reality is, we get into these friendships and relationships where there is no reciprocity. It's a one-sided friendship or relationship because we're given and given and given, and we're not receiving in return. This is another episode of Becoming with Angelina Watkins, and I'm your host, Angelina, your queen of becoming. And I am here to help sophisticated professional women and first-time entrepreneurs become who they need to be so they can do what they're purposed to do, so they can live the abundant life that they want to live. And I started this podcast to talk about healing to prosperity and everything in between to help you become who you need to be to get in a position to win at love, life, and money. If this is your first time joining us, I do want to welcome you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss another episode. We drop a new episode every Thursday. Now, as you're watching the show, if you have some comments, drop your comments below. I love to talk to you. I do respond. And then make sure that after you're done watching the show, that you let me know how you've enjoyed it and what other topics you'd like me to get into. Now, in the news, it's still trending about Shanquella Robinson. Now, I talked about Shanquella Robinson a couple of weeks ago. It's still trending in the news. We are, Americans, we are still upset over what has happened in the senseless death of this young girl by savages, okay? Savages. I think there's been so many rumors in the news of this is what happened, this is what happened, she did this, they did this. It doesn't even, at the end of the day, I think we all can agree that she did not deserve to die. And we all could agree that she died at the hands of savages. And so we're still reeling and trying to process and get through why this happened. And so I want to address some comments that I got from my last episode, which got me to thinking about reciprocity in friendships. And that's one of the red flags I talked about. So make sure you go check that episode out. But reciprocity in friendships and the discernment of giving. Shanquella's death and all that's being talked about has made me really think about that. And I want to get into that later in the show. But right now, I want to send a word of encouragement to those of you who are watching that are struggling with where you are. You're struggling to get ahead. You are struggling to make some things happen for yourself. And you're on the verge of giving up because you've just had a hard time. And you just feel like you're going nowhere and you're spinning your wheels and you're looking at everyone else that's ahead of you and you feel like you're behind. Let me tell you not to stop. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't stop pursuing. Don't stop going for what it is, because when you keep going, it's eventually going to pay off. And I thought about this when I was driving one day to go pick up my daughter from school. And there was this car in front of me. And this car seemed like it was really in a hurry and it kept speeding, but for whatever reason, I kept catching up to this car. And so we get to this light, and at this light, you can keep straight or you can turn. That's all. That's the only thing you can do. There's no right turn. So you can keep straight or you can go to the right. Well, we've got the light to where you couldn't, not the right, to the left. At the light, the turning left signal was red, but you could still go straight. That was green. And so the car in front of me, being very, very impatient, decided they were going to go keep straight, go down, turn around to come back so that they could turn and keep it moving. What happened was the light turns green and I get to turn. They didn't. Now they're behind me. And so what seemed like would be a good idea to vary off the path, vary off the path that you're on to get where you need to be, take a detour and then come back was going to be advantageous. But what it really did was it cost them time. And time is money. And we don't have money to waste. So what I want to tell you is don't worry about the person that's in front of you that looks like they're getting ahead. Because one wrong move on their part and one right move on your part is going to put you ahead of them. See, some people are in such a hurry to get ahead that they end up getting behind because they want to skip steps. And see, they were trying to skip steps, but didn't realize that them skipping steps caused them more steps, which put them behind. Instead of just following the path and the blueprint that's in front of them. So my encouragement to you is don't get discouraged. Don't vary off the path. Don't go and try to add on to whatever else you're already doing, because sometimes that ends up slowing you down and putting you further behind. But just stay focused on the prize, stay focused on what's in front of you, stay focused on where you're going. Keep moving. Don't worry about who's on the side of you. Don't worry about who's in front of you. Just worry about you, because those people that you think are winning are not really winning. And those people that you think are ahead are going to end up behind you. It's like the story of the tortoise and the hare, right? And the hare was going so fast and he ran out of energy, but the tortoise was going at their pace and ended up winning the race. The only race you need to win is the race that you're running for yourself, okay? Now, let's get into Shanquella Robinson and what's been going on with this story. I really don't want to get too much into all of the details, but it's been rumored because she was successful. She was 25-year-old. She was a college graduate. She had a couple of businesses. And according to reports, she was doing very well for herself. And so there were some comments in my previous episode in regards to how much money she had, that she had $10,000. She had $17,000 on her. She paid for the trip. She paid for the villa and all of these things that I don't know what's true or not true. Again, some of these rumors that are out here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money she had. She didn't deserve to die. It doesn't matter what she paid for. She didn't deserve to die. It was a senseless death at the hands of savages. But these rumors floating around and realizing how successful she was, it just got me thinking about the red flag that I talked about when you have friends that you're doing more for them than they are for you. And it got me to thinking about reciprocity in friendships. And this can go in relationships as well, but reciprocity in friendships in which we have a level of expectations that if we are friends, that what I do for you, you will do for me. It's reciprocity. We reciprocate. If I'm doing for you and if I'm caring for you and if I'm loving on you and if I'm supporting you and I'm encouraging you, then I would expect that you would do that in return. And the reality is we get into these friendships and relationships where there is no reciprocity. It's a one-sided friendship or relationship because we're giving and giving and giving and we're not receiving in return. And so I don't think there's, I'm going to say this, and some people might hate me for what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say this, okay? And just let me speak. Nobody owes you anything. No one owes you anything. And in turn, you don't owe them anything. No one's obligated to do anything for you, and you're not obligated to do anything for them. But because of who we are and our character, that's what you do. You give, okay? You care, you encourage, and you support. And when you get into a friendship, although bottom line, nobody owes you anything, there is a level of expectation that comes with being in a friendship and a relationship that there's going to be some reciprocity, that we're both giving and we're both receiving. Now, it may not be equal. The reciprocity may not be equal. I think that is where the expectation gets a little bit off. We think that whatever I do, that person's supposed to do. And it's supposed to be equal, but it's not going to always be equal because we're not the same person. Our giving is not the same. Our thinking is not the same. Our finances are not the same. Our backgrounds are not the same. We're just not the same. So I can't expect someone else to have my heart. And I can't expect someone else to have my mind and do everything the way I would do it because they're not me. And that's the level of expectation that we've got to deal with, and knowing that, yes, we should receive, our friends should reciprocate, but it's just not going to always be equal. And so there may be times where, you go out to eat and you pay for the bill, and the bill that you paid for, maybe you paid a lot. But when they took the bill for wherever you all went to eat, maybe they didn't pay as much because you make more. Maybe you make six figures and they don't. You're making six figures with one child, and they making five figures with six kids. So what you do for them out of the kindness of your heart is not going to be always reciprocated equally. But they should still be able to do for you. If you support them, they should be able to support you. You might watch their kids more than they watch your kid, but we're still reciprocating, right? And in this, we got to make sure we're having discernment when we're so giving of our heart. Because one of the comments talked about the fact that people who are so giving, sometimes we don't see. We always just want to see the goodness in people, and we don't see that everyone is not good. We're looking for good, but everyone's not good. And so we give from the heart, not realizing and knowing and understanding and having that discernment that this is not good ground to sow on. Shanquella, if what was said is true, that she paid for the villa and she was paying for things and she paid for the trip, was not sowing in good ground and may not have known it. Someone said she knew she didn't have, they weren't good friends. I don't know. I'm going to guess that she didn't know that, because who would do that for savages? Who would do that for savages? So we got to have discernment in our giving, not just our giving of money, but the giving of our time, our resources, our talents to people who are not deserving of those things that we have to give, and of those people who are not reciprocating in any type of manner whatsoever. We got to be given something. I can use myself as an example. I have this friend who talk a lot on the phone, but there got to a period of time where the things that I was going through and the things that I was working on, I just didn't have the capacity and the mental capacity and emotional capacity to be there for her like she wanted me to be. But when she needed me, when she made that call and I knew I needed to show up, I showed up for my friend. When nobody else was showing up for my friend, I showed up for her. And she realized that, oh my God, yes, you are busy, you are doing things, but you do love me. Yeah, I do love you. And I'm going to be there for you. I may not be there for you every day, but I'm going to have discernment, because I have other things I'm working on. I have a family, I have a husband, and I have things that I'm doing that I do have to have discernment on when I can show up. Do I have the capacity to show up? But because I love her, she's my friend, bam, when she needs me, I'm there. I'm on that plane. I'm coming, right? If you don't have nobody doing that for you, they're not doing that for you in your darkest hours, in your times of need, you got to be just more discerning in your giving. So let me just tell you the story, and I'm going to end. When we talk about discernment and giving, there's this church I go to. They're very, very giving. And I remember being in a Bible study, and they were talking about, we had this new member who had come from some other state, and she moved here with her two children, and she had came to find her biological mom. And she finally did find her biological mom, but she ended up being found shot dead and on a park bench. And so the person was in a shelter, and of need of a home and things for the home. So she's given her story to the leadership in the church, and they've come to us and they say, hey, we want to give and help furnish this home that the shelter has found for her to live in. And they had this long list of all these things that they wanted people to donate. Everything from toothbrushes, toothpaste, and soap, and washcloths, and beds, and mattresses, and just everything, okay? And there was something in me that said, something don't sound right. This doesn't sound right to me. And so this may sound crazy, but in my mind, I said to myself, if we can pay for a cell phone, and it wasn't just a cell phone for her, but her kids had cell phones because they were there. And I'm seeing her and her kids with cell phones. We could pay for cell phones, but we can't buy our kids toothbrushes? That didn't make sense to me. We can pay for cell phones, but we can't go to the dollar store and buy washcloths? That wasn't making sense to me. Now, I can understand you don't have no money to buy mattresses and beds and some furniture, and you want people to help donate to get some of these big items. But we're about to furnish the whole entire house from the rooter to the tutor. That just wasn't making sense to me. I believe in giving, but sometimes people have to be able to give to themselves. You got to participate and do your part as well. Well, lo and behold, they did it. I mean, they gave her everything from the rooter to the tutor. And she disappeared. She never came back. So then they went to check on her. And she tells them, get away from my door and don't you come back here. And I'm like, we're so quick to give. And I don't want to tell people not to give, but we're so quick to give, but we got to make sure that what we're giving to and who we're giving to is good ground, and that things will be reciprocated. You came and you used the church, and then you went off on your own. Nothing good is going to come of that. They used her, and then they killed her, meaning Shanquella. Nothing good is going to come of that. Okay? You have to know that good is going to come of that. They're going to reap what they sow. But we have to be discerning in our giving, not just our money, but our talents and our resources as well. Okay? All right. Where you are is not where you have to be. Your past does not define you. You define you. So heal, transform, and pursue you.